everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And as promised, this year I said I would go on the Australian wine bandwagon, trying to pump up Australian wine sales, because I think it's really sad that over the past few years we watched a huge decline in Australian wine sales. And there could be very many reasons for this. We've talked about all of those reasons why. Part of it could have to do with the decline in Syrah and Shiraz, but a lot of it has to do with this kick that people got on that wine should not be over-extracted, big, goopy wines. Now, my only point I'm going to make on that is that you're not wrong if you like those styles of wine. There are occasions for every kind of wine, and obviously some people really like them. I mean, you've got Robert Parker Jr., who's always been, I wouldn't say accused, but has been targeted as a person that likes those styles of wine. And you have to admit that Robert Parker is a big voice in the wine world, so is it wrong that he likes those styles of wine? No, absolutely not. And it's not wrong if you like those styles of wine. There's times where I love a big, extracted, fruit-forward wine. It's just the way it is. Sometimes we get in moods, like with anything. Our tastes never stay the same consistently. Well, unless you're one of those people that just constantly drink Pinot Grigio and that's all you'll drink. I mean, I don't feel sorry for a person stuck in that. I just wish I could find a way to get them to expand their palate horizons. That's part of what this show is about, is expanding your palate horizons. And one of the things I think is a shame is that a lot of people are missing out on some great wines from Australia and a lot of good restrained wines. They're not all over the top big fruit bombs. There are many wines from Australia that are really well balanced, minerally great wines, especially when you're talking about Riesling, and they do great Grenache in Australia. So there's a lot of great wines, and we've discussed many of those throughout the 2015, but it has been a little bit of a time since I've had Australian wine on this program, so now it's time to go there. Did my first non-wine episode. I was trying to think, did I have done a non-wine episode? I don't think so, and I did it with Matty Howell. It's the episode just before this one. If you want to check it out, I would encourage you to check it out. He's such a great guy, kind of like a mad scientist sort of guy, who went out and started a distillery, Chuckanut Bay Distillery, and has done an awesome job with that. So he just came out with a bourbon that's really good. It has a great potato vodka, a lot of things that he does really well. Monday Night Football, the Seahawks play the Detroit Lions. At the end of the program, I'll come up with my prediction. I haven't done too well this season so far. Got knocked out of my pool, pick'em pool early, back in it, started it again. A lot of people fell out right away. Interesting season. Who would have thought the Broncos would be 4-0 right now? Kind of crazy. And, well, Green Bay's on fire. Seahawks should be at 500 after tonight. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm just not sure what the score is going to be. Let's get started. We're going to start out with a kind of an iconic label, Layer Cake. They do, it's interesting, this is part of the 100 Acre Wine Company, and he went out on this project where he makes wines from different parts of the world. Now, a lot of winemakers do that. I'm losing it. You have the E wines and the F wines, and from the dude from Orange Swift, Finney? Yeah, for sure. Anyway, this guy has ventured out to all different parts of the world and created a wine from those areas, which is kind of interesting. He does a Primitivo from Italy, he does a Shiraz from Australia, he does a Malbec from, obviously, Argentina. So this is the Layer Cake Shiraz 2013, South Australia, which is where a ton of wines come from. McLaren Vale, Barossa are all part of the South Australia, but this is kind of like Columbia Valley, you know, it's a bigger area, not a specific region. 14.5 alcohol, anyway, and layer cake has long been known. I think you know now, classic example of where Australian wines have gone. I used to have trouble getting layer cake Shiraz. I'd stack it 4 cases. It would be gone in a week. Seriously. And it's $15. I think when I had it then it was 12, 13 bucks, so it wasn't that cheap. I'm serious, it just went whoosh. You couldn't get enough layer cake Shiraz, and you couldn't get it because it sold out that quickly. And how times have changed. I put 4 bottles on the shelf, it might last a week. Seriously. So times have changed with Australian wine. I think it's time to get it back in. Maybe not as powerful as it was. It may not have the market share it used to have a few years ago. But I want it to get back on track and people to quit ignoring Australian wines for whatever reason. Let's see what we get on the nose. So I get a lot of black raspberry. It's a big thing right here. A little black raspberry, again a little blackberry, boysenberry. Interesting, a little bit of wet stone coming through and then a little bit of black licorice. So the bouquet is really good on this wine. You would expect that from Australian wine. Very rarely do I find an Australian wine that is not aromatic. And that's really a cool thing about Australian wines. They do have those aromatics that really make it interesting. Let's see what we get on the palate. So it has a lot of fruit, no doubt about it, but it's not over the top. It has balance, it has good acidity, I'll tell you that much right now. I'm getting a lot of blackberries with a little tariness, a little bit of bacon fat, which you'd expect from a Syrah, and very interesting, they call it Shiraz down there. And a long time ago they tried to differentiate Shiraz from Syrah, and well, you know, obviously people jump all over that. It is Syrah, they just call it Shiraz. They call it Shiraz in South Africa also. But it is Syrah. And this has a really good depth of fruit, kind of tarry, bacon fat thing coming through. A lot of boysenberries, and get the black raspberry. I get also a kind of a core of red cherries underneath all that dark fruit. And this is it is a big wine, there's no doubt about it. What I like about it, even though it has a lot of alcohol, it has balance. I don't get burned, I don't get like alcohol up my nose. Maybe a little bit, I mean it is there, but it's not over the top. So this is a very well balanced Shiraz for $15. And for those of you that are into Zinfandels and you like that kind of bigger style wine, why don't you just jump over the table and grab a Shiraz. Not that you're going to get all the Zinfandel characteristics. You're not getting a lot of currants out of this, all of that. No pepper on it. But that being said, it's still a really solid wine. Very well built. Good acidity. I think there's a lot of good things about this wine. And it does have the fruit. So if you're in the mood for a little hedonism, if you want to have a big extractor wine, ignore those people that criticize you for liking that wine. Now, I'm not saying always, you know, sometimes we jump over to a old world style leathery, you know, funky, earthy wine. You know, just the sad thing about the wine world is it seems to be that people, the snobbery of wine is if you don't like those styles of wine, you're really not a wine drinker. And that is so wrong. That is so wrong. Yeah, there's, you know, Burgundy's a great wine. It's very interesting. It isn't the wine for everybody. It's the way it is. If you don't like Burgundy, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not a wine connoisseur. It just means you don't like that style. Maybe someday you will. But, you know, it doesn't mean you're not a wine person just because you maybe don't like Burgundy. Or maybe you don't like Chinon, or you don't like, you know, Cab Franc from the Loire Valley. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're not a wine person. Maybe you love Australian wines. It's okay. Really is. I'm going to go B plus on that layer cake Shiraz. I think it's really good. It's well above average. Good balance. The heat, you know, doesn't come through. Now we're going to go to a very interesting producer, Mollydooker. I had a chance to interview Sarah Marquise. It was on my PI blog, The Blue Collar Wine Guy. It wasn't. It was a written interview. I didn't have my camera. I didn't have everything going on back then. And that's the first time I ever heard anybody, hard to believe it's the first time, refer to using 300% new oak. They have a couple of wines. One is called the Velvet Glove, 300% new oak on their Shiraz. And what that means, if you've never heard that term before, what that means is they put it in new oak for a certain amount of time, then they transfer it to new oak for a certain amount of time, then they transfer it again to new oak for a certain amount of time. So they treat it with new oak 3 different times, 300% new oak. And I'm telling you, you didn't get very much oak out of it. Because of the fruit, because of how big the fruit is, they were able to get away with that. And very interesting. Velvet Glove is a very expensive wine for obvious reasons. You're using new oak 3 times. But it's also very extracted, very big, very gigantic wine. And we tasted it with a group at my house, right here, at the bar, and everybody loved it. They really did. All right. So this is their 2 Left Feet 2014. And it is a blend of 72% Shiraz, 14%, wait a minute, yeah, 14% Cab Sauv and 14% Merlot. And this rolls in at $28. Boy, this stuff has gone up over the years. Good for them. If they can raise the price in a world where Australian wine is struggling, that's pretty impressive. So Mollydooker is known to be a big wine. They're from McLarenville, I believe. I didn't see. South Australia, same area. They're based out of McLarenville, which is in South Australia. Let's see what we get on the nose. This is a blend from Mollydooker, 28 bucks. Now, once again, I remember when this first came to the U.S., I mean, we put this out. I remember I got a very small allocation. It was gone. Boom, just like that. And every year after that, just boom, boom, boom. My allocation went up. I ordered a lot. I sold it all. Now, I just, even though I'd love to carry, I carried it at the store. I didn't used to. Now I'm back at carrying it again. I've sold a few bottles, but it just doesn't have the same thunder it used to have. I mean, it's crazy. And now, when I was selling a lot of it, it was at 22, 24 bucks. So we're not talking cheap there either, but that's just a testament to where Australian wine has gone. That's all I'm saying. Let's see what we get on the nose. A lot of tobacco, and I get a lot of little currants and blackberries. Once again, very aromatic, which is what we'd expect from an Australian wine. Get an undercore of chocolate and black licorice. Let's see what we get on the palate. That shows the alcohol a little bit more than the other one did, the layer cake. This is 15.5. But once again, it's in good balance. Little burn, I'll give you that. A little bit of burn, more than I like to see on a wine. But it's also very youthful. It's 2014. It's only been, probably hasn't even been in bottle that long. Actually, probably maybe 6 months, 8 months in bottle. It's 2014. Not too exactly sure. Harvest was 14, spring of 14, because their harvest is in our spring, winter, spring, yeah, spring. So, a lot of dark fruits coming through. I get black raspberry on this one also. The tobacco comes through very intense, like it is ripping my palate with intense blackberries, currants, tobacco. You get a little bit of chocolate right at the finish, right at the very end. I get this like milk chocolate thing going on, but it's ripping the palate with big fruit, but in balance. And what I like about it also is it has acidity, and those are all keys to good wines. Yes, it's a big fruit bomb, no doubt about it, but it is not goopy. It is not, you know, unstructured. It has the acidity to keep that alive on your palate. And once again, I just have to say, don't snub your nose at it because it's a fruit bomb. Maybe you want, or maybe you want to have that style. You're in the mood for that kind of style. Almost didn't spit that out. Maybe you're having a special meal. Maybe at Christmas time you're doing a prime rib. This would be a perfect prime rib blend. And I'm telling you, if you have a few special guests over and you pop this bottle of wine, there will be no complaints. I'm going to go B+ on that one also. Maybe more on the B side, only because the alcohol is a little bit more prominent. But still, above average wine. Is it worth 28 bucks? Absolutely. Make it a special occasion wine, or if you just have that kind of discretionary income that you can just buy $28 bottles of wine all the time, go for it. It's certainly worth it. Let's move on. Another Mollydooker wine. This is kind of the one that got them on the map as far as in the United States. I know they got high scores on some of their big wines, but this right off the bat got them on the map. Mollydooker the Boxer 2014 Shiraz. This rolls in again at $28. Am I zooming in on any of these? You think I never did anymore? Okay, just backpedal just a little bit. I was a little bummed my camera didn't focus very well up at the Chuckanut Bay Distillery. And I think that's because I was a little further away. I couldn't see it that well. Maybe my camera couldn't pick it up. I didn't give it enough time. So there's the Layer Cake Shiraz I just showed you. Now here's the Mollydooker label. And this is the two left feet. Sarah and Sparky are both left-handed, so they play on that quite a bit. Mollydooker in Australia means left-hander. So there you go. We have a checker at the store that I call Mollydooker because she's left-handed. Now, the Boxer Shiraz, $28, 15.5 alcohol. South Australia. There you go. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes I get so excited about doing an episode. I was kind of excited to do this one. Sometimes you forget to do the fundamentals. Okay. Let's see what we get on the nose. On the nose. This smells more like Syrah. I mean, definitely get the bacon fat, big time. Big time bacon fat, currants, boysenberries coming through big time. Getting a little bit of red flowers, which is kind of curious. And I can smell the acidity. This is a cool thing. And whenever you're collecting wines, you say, how do you know wine's going to age? There's a couple of things you need. You need good tannins, you need good acidity, and the fruit. You have all those things together. And the fruit doesn't have to be big, ripe fruit like this, but it has to be there in balance with the rest of those things. And if you have that, the acidity is very important to keeping that wine alive for an extended period of time. So those are all important factors in deciding how long a wine will age. You get a little bit of bark, like old dried up bark. Very interesting on the nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. Interesting coffee element coming through on that. Again, really, really solid fruit, but not over the top, not goopy, not flabby. Good acidity. The tobacco comes through. I get currants and blackberries all day. But solid. I mean, it's smooth, but it has the acid. You can get that on the palate. It kind of lifts the fruit, kind of gives it that liveliness. The tannins are there. I mean, obviously there are tannins in this wine, but they're very well integrated into the fruit, so you get a very smooth, polished wine with a little attitude. You know, okay, very smooth, polished, and the attitude comes from the acidity that makes it pop, which I really like. And this also has a lot of red flowers. I'd go violets and maybe a little wilted rose petal kind of coming through. A little bit of chocolate and licorice, but it's not the prominent part of this wine. Once again, I would serve that with prime rib. I'd serve that with steaks. I would serve that with spaghetti with a red sauce. Spaghetti and meatballs would be really good. Good wine. Pulled pork might work. It might be a little over the top unless the pork is really spicy. It would go to barbecue really well. It would definitely go with that. So there you go. 3 well-known Australian wines that are really good, and they're worth the money that they're asking. They have good acidity, good structure, good balance. I'm going to go B+ on the Boxer. Also, well, B+, B+. The Boxer, I'm going to go B+. Alcohol doesn't burn as much as the 2 Left Feet, but it's not over the top. Don't get me wrong, it's not like super powerful. But great wines. Great wines, and I think people are missing out. They're more than willing to spend $28 on a Zinfandel or a 40, 50, 60 bucks on a Napa Valley Cab. Yeah, and a lot of those wines are big fruit bombs too. They just are. And, you know, so keep looking towards Australia. Don't give up on them. Go back. Try a few. See what you think. You know, don't let the community of wine snobs tell you where you should go. That's the key. And never get stuck in a rut. That's very important with wine. Don't get stuck in a rut. Thanks for watching. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Drink it. Enjoy it. Be willing to try new things. Never give up on a wine. Don't give up on a country just because what everybody says. Be willing to try new things, but don't ever let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. And if you do that, together, you and I, we can take the snob out of wine.